Hey folks, welcome to The Interview, a show dedicated to getting inside information and taking a closer look at some of our industry professionals. Our guest today is Dax Messett. How you doing, Dax?
Really good.
Awesome.
Glad to be here.
Taking a little break from guiding.
I am.
Dax, let's get right to it, buddy. How long you been guiding?
This will be 16 years coming up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you have quite a resume. And I had to write it down because there's so many venues that you've guided. NorCal, Southern Oregon, Olympic Peninsula, New Zealand, the Grand Ronde. Am I missing any?
I did some time in Montana.
You did some time in
I
Montana.
did a summer in Montana. Did a little bit in Alaska.
That's right.
Yeah, did a little gig in Alaska too.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what is your next venue?
Winter steelheading. I'll start here on the Southern Oregon coast in January after my little Christmas holiday seeing family. And then February 1st, I'll head up to the Olympic Peninsula. I'll be on the OP until the middle of April. And after that, take some downtime. And then this summer, Leslie and I are doing a hosted trip to Christmas Island.
Oh, nice.
So, and before or after we go there, we're going to hang out in Hawaii for a while and do some bone fishing. And she's got a brother who lives there now, so kind of chill out in Hawaii for a bit and do some trout guiding in NorCal. And Klamath Spey camps will be in August till mid-August, and then mid-August till late September I'll be in British Columbia, hosting trips like I do up there every year. They're already all booked up, which is great. Then the Grand Ronde in Washington, and then I guess a year from now I might be sitting here again if I make it through all that stuff.
You come through Southern Oregon often, coming and going from your guide venues.
Oh.
Do you see Southern Oregon as your home?
I guess define home. My mail goes there.
Life of a nomad.
Yeah, I like to say home's just whatever river I'm on or place I'm fishing, and wherever my dog and girlfriend are, that's pretty much home.
Yeah. How did you get into fly fishing, Dax?
I didn't grow up doing it. I grew up in Pennsylvania that has a lot of fly fishing, but I never did it. There was too much football and sports and stuff going on back then. But I moved to Tahoe after college, primarily to not do anything in the real world and just snowboard for a while. And one of my buddies was a pro snowboarder, moved there a few years before me, and in the summertime, he liked to fly fish, and I'd see people fly fishing on the Truckee River, and they had a bike path, and I'd ride my longboard or bike along the path, and I'd see the guys fishing, and I was drawn to it. Just looked cool, and it looked like a good excuse to be in a pretty place, and I liked the river anyway. I'd take my dogs there and probably bother the fly fishermen before I knew what they were trying to do. And so anyway, I started trying it, and I was terrible like most people, kind of trying to teach myself. But then I met some really good people. Right that first summer I moved there, just met some rock stars, anglers and guides, and they all kind of took me under their wing somehow. And within 2 or 3 years, I started helping out with clinics, and I was teaching snowboarding a lot at that time, so I kind of had that in my background, and it just kind of went nice during a summertime, kind of gig. And then I was doing it full time by 2000. Yeah, by 2001, I quit all the other jobs, and that was it.
Teaching a snowboarder versus a fly angler, are there some parallels there?
Yeah, the key to both of them is awareness.
Consequence is a little different for the snowboarder.
Yeah, and it sounds simple enough. Just be aware of what you're doing, please. Like snowboarding, like with a beginner, main thing is to keep that front knee bent, and occasionally I'd bring a little video camera with me and videotape them, and I'm like, bend your front knee, and they're like, I am, and meanwhile their knee's totally locked and straight and they're out of control, and then I could sit on the lift and see, like, look at your knee, it's totally straight. So if you're teaching somebody how to cast, Single hand, you're like, don't break your wrist. I'm not breaking my wrist. I'm not. Actually, yeah, so there's the main similarity is awareness when you're teaching somebody how to do anything, I think.
On that note, what do you think makes a good fly angler?
Boy, I think the best person fishing is the one that's having the best time doing it. And I know that might sound a little cheesy, but I remember being frustrated when I was learning how to fly fish and learn how to cast a single hand rod or trying to catch a trout that I knew was there. And when I started spey casting, despite some of my early amazing mentors like you and Gino and Bill Lowe, I still just seemed like it took me several years to really get good at it. So, but it didn't. I'd get frustrated, but it didn't take away obviously how much I enjoyed doing it. And then as you start to progress and it starts to become a little more second nature and intuitive, and when you actually get more aware of what you're doing visually, then it starts clicking. And yeah, so I think the enjoyment of it and whoever has the most fun is getting the most out of doing it.
Well, you're a quick study. I've seen you cast and fish and really take off over the years. And you mentioned some mentors, and I know one of your mentors is Scott O'Donnell, who you work with on the Grand Ron. What are some of the things that you've learned from Scott that you can disclose here?
Yeah, that first year, and it'd never happen again, especially how much Speywater Lodge has grown in terms of just the operation itself. My first year, it was just me and Scott doing the multi-day floats. So, I had somebody that was an icon, in spey casting and steelhead angling and development of the stuff that we use. I was able to pick his brain every night around the fire. All we talked about was pursuing steelhead and where we like to fish for them and how we like to fish for them and different theories and how to teach people how to get better at casting, like identifying common faults and things like that. Because he'd been doing it for so long and has just worked with so many different people from a client standpoint and instructional standpoint. I think that's what I benefited the most, was working with him and talking a lot about conceptual theories about casting and angling. That really kind of blew my mind. And over 7 years now, we don't get to work together in that capacity, but it really blew my mind and taught me a lot about it. And one of the things that we really agree a lot on is the whole visual awareness is like the key to learning how to get better at spey casting. And it just seems like we can't hammer that enough to people that are wanting to get better and get to that next level. So that's our biggest thing I got from him, and how much he was really into, initially what got him into fly fishing, I think, from our conversations, is the appreciation of the artistic nature of watching somebody cast a fly rod. Yep. And the artistic, and you become part of that environment in which you're fishing. And it's nice to know that there's a fish there that you can maybe catch, but steelhead fishing, generally you're not seeing them. So what you could focus on is the beauty of the cast and getting more enjoyment out of that by becoming a better caster and so forth, an angler in itself.
You bet. You and I met at Clearwater House, which was owned and operated by Dick Galland.
Still one of my favorite people and mentors.
What does that experience mean to you, and what are some of the things you remember working for Dick?
Dick really taught me a lot about the best thing he taught me, because I went on to lease and manage a small lodge in New Zealand for a little bit and work in sort of management capacities in other places and with other operations, is that you can't control the catching of fish.
Yep.
And when you're a guide or you're running a lodge or an outfitting business, all you can control is who you send the clients out with, who's the guide. And there's plenty of guides out there that could catch fish in certain ways, but you can't teach somebody how to have a good personality. It's hard to teach somebody, as an instructor or guide, how to have patience and to just be an enjoyable person to be on a river with for a day or 4 days or a week, whatnot. And so he's like, focus on, who the client's going out with. Focus on having great food. You know, you could have a tough day fishing, you get back to the lodge or camp or whatever. If you have good food, clients can remember that, and you could control that. And then comfortable accommodation, you know, or you having your people stay, or do you have a lodge that has a lot of improvements that need to be made? You could control that by making those as good as possible, because you can't control moon phases or what the tides are when somebody's at a saltwater venue or anything. But if they've got a good guide and they like the food and good accommodation, I think you could be a very successful if you're an outfitter, lodge owner, or just a regular day-to-day sort of guide. And Dick taught me a lot of that.
Dick was a great host, and he ran a tight ship. And I remember one of his policies was that we kept our shirts tucked in. How many times did you get written up violating that policy, Dax?
Boy, maybe that's why I didn't get paid much by him, because I refused to tuck my shirt in. I didn't really like shaving every day either. That clean shaven thing, yeah, let's just say on the Ron, that's not a big issue. But he's a military kid, you know, grew up by a stern military father, and no stacking plates, the tucked in shirt thing. Man, he did not like tobacco use either, and he was all right with the drinking, but you start banning tobacco use and alcohol, you're going to find yourself with no guides to work for you pretty quick.
But he was pro fun, and we did have a great ping pong table.
We did.
And we had some great late night tournaments.
We sure did.
Well, we're due for a
few injuries here and there.
There were a few injuries. Well, we're due for a break here. We're going to head to a short break, and we'll be right back.
3 years ago, I joined the Ashland Fly Shop, and now I'm the head box maker. The key to making a good box is the key ingredients. The right box, the right tape, a sharp knife, and all the other tools that really help put it all together. Once the order is placed, the process begins. It begins with sizing up the package, taking the measurements. What are the dimensions? Solving the equation. Am I going to have to make a custom box? And is that box going to be a work of art? That's what I strive for. I love it. There's a tremendous amount of steps involved, from the cutting to the taping, the measuring, and just sizing up what you're going to put in the box. It might seem simple, but it's quite complicated to finally get that final product that passes my inspection. I take a real ownership, there's a real responsibility, and a level of accountability that can't be measured. The amount of detail involved, the research, the field testing. Once the box has reached its destination, the customer will see my signature on it. And to me, that's the seal of approval. And without that, it's just another box. Once I walk out the front door of the Ashland Fly Shop, every step I take, that package is a step closer to the customer. And every step along the way is as important as the last. That should not be undersold. These boxes are made in Ashland, Oregon, America. And while we might not be the only box maker in America, I'm the only box maker at the Ashland Fly Shop. So when you receive a package from the Ashland Fly Shop, you know that it was made right here in Ashland, Oregon, with our stamp of approval, made by me, the box maker.
We're back here with Dax Messett for the interview. All right, Dax. Now this is an unfair question, which I've been asked before. So do your best.
All right.
If you had to fish one river the rest of your life, what would that be?
I get asked that one a lot, and it is.
It's totally unfair, isn't it?
It is. Because the normal answer is whichever one I'm on, because I only fish on awesome rivers.
You only get asked that when you're on the river.
Yeah.
You have
I'm like, this one right here today.
This one right here today.
Because it's where we're at. Live in the moment, man.
Exactly. So let me rephrase that. Because I know you're a passionate steelhead fisherman. What makes the perfect steelhead river?
The perfect steelhead river is undammed. The perfect steelhead river has a pretty healthy ecosystem and hasn't been pummeled and logged to hell and back in its headwaters. I'm starting to describe rivers that don't even exist, but anyway,
they're out there.
They're out there.
You guide some of those rivers.
I do, and it has a winter run of fish because I really like the fish that come up in the winter time and that are pretty close to the ocean. I like fishing for fish relatively close to the ocean as much as possible.
Yeah.
Not far from the tides, and that don't have big old red stripes all over them, or double stripes, and are done spawning already. Yeah, I like fresh ones, so I try to go to places, both in my guiding and hosted travel venues, where we're going to catch that fish we all want, that's dime bright, that's super fresh, that hasn't seen a fly or got snagged 6 times by bead and bear hooks on its way upriver.
Fair enough. So what do you think makes the perfect client?
The perfect client is somebody that has very realistic goals and expectations about A, their own angling ability, and B, the venue that they're hiring the guide to take them out on. If one of those two things isn't happening, and they have unrealistic goals and expectations of how they're going to angle, it's going to be a tough day. So the best client are the ones, they don't have to be a rock star in terms of angling ability, but if they are willing to learn and get better over the course of the day, and not just the course of the day. Most of my clients, as you know, I've been working with them since even old Clearwater days. I've been guiding some of these people for 15 years, and wherever I end up guiding, they kind of follow around like a cool group of, really, they become friends, and they've developed over the years, and there's nothing better than that. So if you're a client, be honest with yourself about, your own angling ability, and if you're going with a guide that's a good one, he's going to make you a better angler as long as you're on that same program. And in terms of the fishery, you don't book a winter steelhead trip, swinging flies to catch a whole bunch of fish. It's more of a lifetime of going. A lot of my guys, particularly on the OP, and my guys that go to BC, they do the same week every year, or the same group of 3 days. Some years they nail it, some years they don't. I've been to the Dean twice, didn't nail it either time. I'll still go back, It's just the way it is. And I've been permit fishing a number of times and just didn't quite nail it. It doesn't take away from the experience I had and enjoyment of it, or the guides or anything, because I look at it as I think clients should look at it. And I know I get to fish a lot more than most people, but you kind of look at your fishing experiences as a lifetime of angling experience as opposed to one trip.
Sure.
Particularly if it's a day trip on a whatever trout venue or something, and the fishing stuff because it's windy or there's some weird moon phase or whatever. You can't be harsh on yourself over that.
And that goes back to the things you can and cannot control, right?
Absolutely.
You can't control the fishing, but you can control the experience.
That's right.
And you can, as a guide or outfitter or booking agent, set the expectation levels properly.
Absolutely.
And
realistically.
If a client is armed with that information, then they can have a good time.
Yeah.
Because they know.
They should.
Yep.
Yeah.
They know what to expect. That's awesome. Dax, I know the answer to this question, but not everyone else does. What are your passions outside of fly fishing?
I love to travel. Part of why I love fly fishing is because the type of fishing I like to do happens in really cool places, both when I travel overseas, I love the cultural aspects, the immersion into these different places I've got to travel and go with. I kind of always had a bit of wanderlust anyway, so fly fishing and destination fly fishing kind of goes well with that. I also love to snowboard. That's kind of what got me. I might not be sitting here if it wasn't for my passion of the mountains and snowboarding. I'm not great at it, but I like jamming on my guitar every now and then.
I think you're pretty good, Dax.
Well, I don't know. Depends on. It's kind of like ping pong. If you have too much beer, then your game's not going to be as good. Same thing with playing guitar. But generally, if I'm at a camp around a campfire, I could hold my own, I guess. I love camping. I love floating the rivers just as much as I think. Fishing shouldn't be done from a boat. It should be on your own 2 feet, in a river. I don't care if you're trout fishing or steelhead fishing. But I love rowing the boat. I love rowing the raft. I'm getting more and more into enjoying the whitewater aspect of going down a river, and I think I'm going to do a bit more of that here in the next couple of years, and love spending time with my dog and girlfriend.
You didn't mention football, Dax, because I know that's what you're doing this weekend. And you're from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And you're a Steelers fan.
Big time. Mega.
And so how are they going to do in the playoffs this year?
They're going to win the Super Bowl without question. I'm not saying that because I'm biased, but if you really look at how they're playing now, and this could be an ESPN interview, like how it's all coming together. Got some guys back off injury. Defense is looking sharper. They're neck and neck with the Ravens in their division right now, and they're evil, and we're going to beat them the next time we play them. And I'm actually going to the Steelers-Browns game on New Year's Day in Pittsburgh. It's the last game of the year, which could be a pretty mega one. And football definitely, and I love all sports, which is funny from somebody that hasn't owned a TV for 8 years, but I just got one last week because I sort of live somewhere right now for a little bit.
You bet.
Thanks to you.
You got it, buddy. All right. So I know you love Pearl Jam. You and I share that. You love football. You and I share that.
And if you don't like Pearl Jam and football, it's because you suck. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
So if you could meet one celebrity, who would that be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Boy, it would be cool to meet Eddie Vedder. Yeah, I'd like to go fishing with Eddie Vedder, I think. Teach him how to spey cast, maybe.
I'll bet he'd be a good spey caster.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, he's a surfer. So he kind of, spey casting's kind of a groovy sport.
Yep. Yeah. Personal sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be Vedder.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, buddy.
All right.
Where do we see Dax Messett in 10 years?
Ooh, I've never liked that question. I'm going to try to keep the hair going.
As you should.
Boy. I think my 10-year plan is to just keep doing what makes me happy. And if guiding doesn't make me happy anymore, I'll do something else. Maybe be a sportscaster or a football coach or something. So yeah, I don't know where I'll be, but I know I'll be happy with whatever I'm doing.
Well, I hope you're in Southern Oregon, Dax. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks.
Great to see you as always.
As always.
Thanks for tuning in to the interview. We'll see you next time.